Tahnee, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having
I
me.
am
It's great to be here.
very excited. So, for all of those tuning in, I'd like to introduce you to Tahnee Perry. She's a very accomplished marketing strategist and an AI consultant with over 2 decades of experience in the industry. She has held several leadership roles, including VP of Marketing at Deem and at North Star Travel Group, where she actually oversaw a team of 12 people across 7 brands. Tahnee is very impressive. I got the opportunity to work with her a few years ago and just did around 220. Wow. In 2023, she started A25, which we'll be talking about today. This is an AI marketing consultancy aimed at helping companies harness the power of artificial intelligence to revolutionize their marketing strategies and drive business growth. She's just an awesome, unique blend of traditional marketing expertise and innovative AI insights. Super excited to talk to you about how to navigate the evolving landscape of AI driven marketing, and really interested to hear your thoughts on how companies like ours and those who are listening can really make sure they're harnessing AI this year. So again, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, and for the very impressive introduction. It's amazing to be here, and it's great to see you.
Excellent. All right. So obviously, very first question. I was watching a lot of the content that you've been posting on LinkedIn, and it's really about AI literacy within organizations and preparing even to integrate AI within your organization. In your experience, what do you think are some of like the key indicators to really indicate that a team is ready for AI? And how do you even get started?
Yes, this is a great question because it's something that all team leaders should really be asking themselves, and they shouldn't underestimate the amount of effort it takes to become AI literate, if you will. I think a great indication is if you have leadership buy-in, because without executive approval or encouragement, it's
Mm,
going to be really hard to make any progress with your efforts. So if you're a team leader, make sure that your executive suite is on board with what you're trying to do. And if you have that, the next thing is to make sure that you have a team that's open to change. And if they're not open to change, then helping them move through that. I think where I see a lot of the AI efforts fall down is when a leadership team doesn't spend enough time working through all the steps and making sure that their team
mm,
feels comfortable, has the knowledge and the training, and is allowed to experiment. Because the problem with AI is there's no rule book at the moment. We're kind of making it up as we
totally.
go. And so you have to have a little bit of latitude to experiment and potentially fail. And if you restrict what people can do, then you're going to create a lot of fear and uncertainty. So I'd say the three things are leadership buy-in, a culture of experimentation, and some time to work on your change management.
And that's really interesting that the very first thing is executive leadership buy-in. Are there specific reasons that you're seeing a lot of teams opting into AI, especially in their marketing strategy? Why are they driving this initiative forward?
Well, it's just driving such impressive benefits in terms of time saving and also budget. It's the dollar savings, especially in the marketing departments. I've just seen some really impressive scenarios depending on what the use case is. And I think
Mhm.
any executive team, they all want to know what they're looking for is a more efficient team and also saving money and driving revenue. And
Right.
AI is allowing teams to do all of those things.
That's great. Are you seeing certain AI tools like really start to flatten the curve in terms of having teams be able to utilize it pretty quickly? Or is this a situation where it's taking a long time for teams to get that AI literacy and adopt it? Like, what's that roadmap or timeline do you feel like has been for you?
It depends on the team and their approach. I see companies who they have executive buy-in, but what they say is like, just go and play around or experiment. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I think that's nice to encourage folks, but if you don't have a coordinated effort, I it becomes very ad hoc and you'll get pockets of teams or individual contributors who are doing really well and getting a lot of benefits, and then you'll leave the rest of the organization behind.
Mhm.
I see the organizations that are having the biggest impact take a much more formalized approach. And it starts with the executive buy-in and then having a very formal process for training, because this is a really new
Mm.
technology and not everybody knows how to use it and feels comfortable with it. So I'd say invest in some kind of training. You could hire me, which would be wonderful. But if you don't have the budget for that, there's a lot of courses online. You can do lunch and learns. Like one of the things that I found works really well
Mhm.
is you do have people in organizations who are leaning in and experimenting. They love sharing what they're doing. So give them a
Absolutely.
platform to say, hey, here's what I did, here are the steps I took, and here's what happened. And then what happens is their colleagues say, oh, wow, that gives me an idea to try it for something else. And then you get this kind of, cycle of wins around AI. So I think
Yeah.
if you can take a formal approach of at least having some kind of training, also giving people access to the tools, I'd still see organizations who are like, we won't give out pro licenses for ChatGPT. We won't invest in Gemini and
No.
Copilot, which are the Google and Microsoft. I won't
Right.
invest in HubSpot Breeze, which is all of the AI features and functionality.
Exactly.
So I think you need those three things.
And I think the point that you're making here is to really identify what is it that you are trying to accomplish with the use of AI. I think a lot of teams right now, especially at the executive level, assume that it's like we're going to use AI and we're going to decrease our headcount because it can handle so many things. And I personally don't know if we're there yet for every team in every use case. I do know, and you shared with me a really interesting case study where there has been organizations, especially in customer support, that have cut hundreds of heads. But what about with marketing? Like, what are some of those initial goals that people are coming to you with for why they want to use AI in their organization?
Yeah, I always start with your strategic plan, which you should already have in place, and the goals that you're looking to achieve with AI. Because I feel like sometimes people come to me that they want to apply a tool or they want AI to be the silver magic bullet, and
Right. Yeah.
and then they're disappointed because it doesn't work that way, at least not yet. And some of the, again, it depends a little bit on the department or the function, what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the best way to tease that out is to sit down with each team. So if you're working with an SEO team, their goal is going to be driving traffic. Okay, so what kind of processes do you need to put in place? What changes do you need to take account of, given that AI search is now this new thing? On the
Yep.
other side, if it's branding and content, your goal is to produce content that people like to read. And AI has a very different impact there because if you're using AI to just press a button and then publish a blog, what we're finding is that that content doesn't resonate with anyone and no one reads it. So what's the point, right?
Right.
But I've talked to copywriters who are like, I don't use AI, I hate it, the outputs are terrible. And my response to them is, well, you're probably not applying it the right way. Because even as a writer, there are things that AI can do to help you. It can help you with brainstorming, giving you ideas for titles, helping you with a plan and an outline, helping you. One of the things I love AI, especially ChatGPT, is you tell it to act like somebody. So you can get all these different
Yes.
points of view. So you could write a blog post and say, hey, my ICP is, I don't know, a mid-level manager at a automotive company. What would they think of this blog? And then ChatGPT will tell you. And yes, it might not be perfect, but at least it's going to give you some ideas of how that person will respond to your content. And I mean, I don't know any content writers that like call up a bunch of people and say, what do you think of my content? So it's
Right. No.
a really great way for them to get that insight.
Nobody has time to get that kind of feedback on a
No.
grand scale. That's a really good point, actually. In terms of AI literacy and AI readiness, one of the things that I'm finding, even with our own organizations that we work with inside of HubSpot, is just a lack of understanding the AI tools that are already available to them. You mentioned Breeze, for example, and I don't know how many people listening are familiar with HubSpot's Breeze and the co-pilots and the agents, but these tools are already being baked into the softwares that you're already using. But so few people actually understand what they're capable of. And if you don't understand what they're capable of, there's no way you're going to have full adoption and know how to use it. So you mentioned like just kind of identifying first strategically what are the goals that you're trying to accomplish, and then going through and looking at what tools are at your disposal. Are there any other ways that you feel like teams should be considering the usage of the AI, especially when they already have it baked into their software, like HubSpot, for example, right? Uh, you don't know how to use it, you're not sure what to do with it. Where do you go from there if you're an organization like that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the tool because the resources that you have available will differ. If you're talking about a platform like HubSpot and you're on one of their enterprise plans, you'll have a customer success manager, which I think that's a great place to start if you want a little bit of formal training or you need to be pointed in the right direction. I do think that there's something to be said for just getting your hands on the keyboard and experimenting with
Sure.
the functionality. And the way you would do that is you'd start off with the knowledge documentation. Maybe they have university content. So there's like you could YouTube any of this
100%.
content, and there's always someone that is showing you how to use the feature. So if you want to be a go-getter and figure it out for yourself, you can do a quick Google search, or you can do like a ChatGPT search, watch the videos, try it out yourself. And then when you feel comfortable with one feature, you can move on to the next and then integrate it into your workflow. That's how you do it if you don't have that formal training set up already. And then the
Sure.
second thing is just getting in touch with your CS and seeing if you can get access to a little bit more guidance.
Yes.
Or
And
actually, I should say you should hire someone like Origin 63 who have all the experts already there to help you get up to speed on things.
yeah, totally. And that's something that I think a lot of organizations, even providers like us, are looking at accomplishing for our customers is here are the use cases behind how to use the AI baked into the software and then putting it into your workflow. HubSpot actually has this goal of having AI be used on every single one of your login experiences within HubSpot. And that's a really robust and lofty goal. And I love what you said. Just get started, start somewhere, play with it, see what's capable of, and kind of go from there. Now, if I am an employee who's starting to play with these and I want more of my teammates to have access, I obviously need to go to bat for these types of tools. What are some of the ways that you're telling teams to measure the effectiveness of AI and then be able to go to the executive team and say, I want this, here are the measurable results. Can I have this for my team?
Yeah, there's the first thing you have to do is benchmark where you are currently with your work. And it's as simple as creating you could do a Google spreadsheet or a Word doc and track your hours. So you start your task, you track how long it takes, how many steps it took, and what the final output looked like. And then when you're using AI to replicate that workflow, you do the same thing.
Mm,
And you can, I mean, again, it depends on what you're using it for. But what I've seen,
right.
my clients in some cases are saving hours. There's one client, I helped them with a translation project. So they were using human translators and they were spending
Mm,
$72,000 a year on
holy
translation
crap.
services. And we helped them build a custom GPT to translate everything into French and German and whatever languages they were in
Nice.
market for. And I think they got their translation service cost down to zero because they were relying on the GPT. They did a quick internal review and they were able to get the assets published. So what was costing the company quite a lot of money and a lot of time, I mean, that's the benefit right there immediately.
Yeah, so efficiency seems to be right now like the name of the game in terms of the measurable outcomes. Do you see the future of AI moving into more of the realm of being able to say, like, we've generated revenue because of these particular activities? What does that look like, do you think? And I'm getting a little future focused here, I know, but I am curious from your perspective.
Yeah, I think right now a lot of the conversation is around the time and the money it saves companies
Yeah.
because for a marketing team, if you're spending less time, you can do more. Obviously, that saves you on budget, it saves you time. But I do think there's growing technology or improving technology, especially on the lead gen side. There's lots of tools that help you prospect, and that links directly to generating pipeline and closing a deal. I work with a client who they use a platform called Sixth Sense, and one of the features they have in it is called conversational email. And what you do is you build what they call an AI agent that will communicate with leads or prospects. And you design it specifically to say, here are the types of prospects you can target. Here's what you may or may not say. And then it will go and it'll have a conversation via email, I guess unguided or unsupervised. Now, I've talked to clients. The results of this are, mixed, right? Sometimes the AI goes a little bit off the rails and it might say something.
Uh-huh.
You're like, oh God, that didn't go so well. But what I recommend is if you have a set of leads that's kind of low value and your sales team or your SDRs are not getting to it anyway, and it's just going unattended, that's a great cohort for AI, sales nurturing. If you have high value accounts, they're very close to close. Those are not the types of accounts that you would hand over to an AI. You may leave those with your sales team. But something like that, an effort driven by something like conversational email, I mean, you can draw the direct line between that effort and pipeline and, potentially revenue.
That is such a good point. And I think that goes back to the example that you had shared about the support teams being able to cut heads in order to boost more of that personalization at the higher levels or the more skilled conversations. And I think that's where we're all headed, right? Is that the lower value, lower skill set, at least to start with right now, is where AI is really going to shine in terms of like the agent sitting in for a human being. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely. I think those easy, especially for customer success, if there's something I just need resolved and it's not complex, I'm more than happy to talk to AI. I just want the chatbot to solve it for me. I don't need to sit and
Right.
be on wait to get to a human. But if it is more complex and it's something that does require human input, then yes, I think those kinds of tasks need to be handed off.
Now, this question was not on our sheet, but I'm going to ask it anyways because you and I had a little bit of a debate going back and forth about this on LinkedIn around customer success specifically. So, not talking support in terms of, I have an issue reactively, I need it solved. You just mentioned many of us are happy to talk to bots. Customer success has kind of been going through a lot lately, especially in the advent of AI. And they're being expected more and more to be kind of like a hybrid support and sales. What I've been telling, and I'm really curious to see if you agree with this. If you disagree, I'd love to hear that too. But what I've been telling teams is that customer success is really where you should put your heads, especially if it's enterprise accounts, because they are driving a lot of the renewal, the extensions, the upsells, cross sells through the relationships and the understanding of what these accounts are trying to accomplish, what they've been using, etc. And a bot isn't going to be the best route to have those conversations, but AI could feed the conversations, like give data so that the CS teams have more at their fingertips. So I love to hear if you agree with that, or if you're like, actually, you should be thinking about AI as part of these conversations in a different way than what I suggested.
I'd say yes, and I
Okay.
definitely agree. I think renewals are a conversation that are better suited for humans at the moment. But where you can integrate AI is in the data gathering stage. So you could pull all of your customer data and run it through. You could even, ChatGPT is really great at this, recognizing patterns. Are there patterns where
Yes.
that show you certain types of objections or challenges that keep coming up that put a customer at risk? Are there certain things that a segment of your customer set respond to better than others? And then what you do is you equip your customer success people with that information so that when they go to have the conversation, they can say, hi, here's what we're hearing and seeing as a part of your usage. Let's have a conversation. And I mean,
Yes.
AI bots are not at that point yet. So you need
No, not yet.
yes, you need for that.
Awesome. And maybe we'll get there. I would say where we are right now, I don't see AI coming in and taking those kinds of jobs. But like you said, they will assist and make them more effective conversations. Because let's face it, human beings with hundreds of accounts on their plate are not going to have the time or the bandwidth, or maybe even the skill to find the patterns, like you said, ChatGPT and other types of AI can.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, Tani, just kind of looking ahead a little bit more and kind of closing this out, are there any trends that you're foreseeing to become something that every marketing team is really going to be undertaking in the next, let's say, 1 to 3 years, even? And maybe that's too far for AI, actually. Maybe 6 months to a year from now.
You make a good point. Everything is moving really, really fast. I
So
think,
fast.
yeah, I think three things that marketers should be thinking about is first AI agents, and everyone's talking about them.
Yes.
And I think you as a marketer and a marketing team need to be thinking about how you apply or integrate AI agents into your work. And depending on if you use something like Microsoft Copilot, they have their agents pre-built. Salesforce also has what they call Agentforce. HubSpot has agent.ai. So you've got these agents available now, but it's up to you to make sure that you're thinking of ways to integrate them into your work. The second one is voice. I don't
Oh,
know if you've
yes.
used the voice capabilities for things like ChatGPT. I use it all day, every day when I'm out walking, driving the car. I want to have a conversation. I just tap the button and I have a conversation. And what's happening is that's training us to talk to our AI via voice instead of texting. So you need to
Mm,
think about voice. And the third is AI search. Companies like ChatGPT and Perplexity, which is a competitor to Google, even Google, they now have AI overviews. Those are all
right.
things as a marketer you need to be thinking about. How am I going to show up in these results as opposed to traditional SEO?
Those are all really good, powerful things that we can look at today as marketing teams. Tani, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting. And I think there's even a part two to dig into some of those three things that you just mentioned, but really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.